Hey guys, Mr. Antoon here. We're going to finish out chapter 9. We're looking at, this is of unit 8, we're looking at sections 5 through 9. So here we go. So whether to vote, a citizen's first choice. We're going to look at the factors that influence how we vote. So who stays home and who doesn't. By the way, 2020 is the turnout rate could be the highest since 1900, 120 years. Again, do you give credit to Trump because he can bring us out like that? What are the other factors that are happening there? But again, who stays home and who votes? As a right, the right to vote from the 26th Amendment to 18-year-olds, fewer have chosen to exercise that right. We still stay overall apathetic. But we have had the highest turnout rate in the past 100 years because it was 80%. And look, we got to 67 predicting. We have to wait for that for the statistics to come out on that. But they're saying it's been the highest ever. And 2018 was the highest midterm since the same around the same period of time, right around the turn of the century or early 1900s. In 2008, we had 61% for president. You can see again it ebbs and flows, goes down to really low in the 90s for Bill Clinton. You're just seeing how it's done. So they're looking at about 65+%, which would be pretty nice. So why do we vote? Overall, if you feel that you have a high sense of political efficacy, meaning your vote matters, that is why you feel you go out to vote. You feel like you have a say in it. And some people, based on could be ethnicity, culture, education, economic standing, feel that they don't have that efficacy, that right to vote as much. So obviously you've got to register to vote, and voter registration around the turn of the century prevented corruption associated with stuffing ballot boxes. This didn't happen on a national scale, but it happened in certain instances when we got to that, or we got to those votes. We could see that there was corruption going on, not like Trump calls it out today. Registration obviously differs from state to state. The easiest to register would be the Upper Great Plains in the Northwest. So there's no registration in North Dakota, and 4 states permit registration on election day. You can walk in and register to vote and vote that same time period. The toughest in the South, especially with voter ID laws, so therefore they have the lowest voter turnout rates because a lot of the lower socioeconomic ones don't have government IDs, so therefore they don't, use their right to vote. The Motor Voter Act of 1993 made it easier to register. If you went and got a driver's license, there'd be a checkbox saying, I want to register in a sense, and they would automatically register from that point on. It's pretty cool, but I don't know if you've used it. Several characteristics for voters and non-voters. Voting is a class-biased activity. What I mean by that, people with, and I'm going to give you some examples, people with an average education or income levels or higher education, higher income, have a higher rate of voting. They feel, again, political efficacy at the higher rate. Young people have the lowest turnout rate, maybe not in this last one, but overall since 1972, it's always been the 18 to 24-year-olds have had the lower voter turnout. Whites vote overall, ethnicity-wise, more than others too. Women slightly vote more likely than men in comparison to men. Married people are more likely to vote than unmarried people, and government employees vote higher than anybody who's non-government. So you're just seeing some of the characteristics of what they do. Again, I want to go back to this. You guys can see it's pretty impressive, the midterm versus the presidential one. Trump has the highest midterm in 2018, even though his president one was, you could see, again, this is the last one, 2016, was high, but not the highest. Now we're way up there. I would love to get to 80, 85% to show a positive turnout. In terms of voting age, this doesn't have a source to it, but it's a good one. I think it's from your textbook. It shows us turnout, less than high school in terms of education would be the lowest turnout to 2018. And it always dips down at midterms, if you didn't notice that. Obviously, the highest one has postgraduate degree. They're more likely to vote. That's, again, how it works. In terms of age, there it is, 18 to 29-year-olds, lowest turnout, and that was in 2018. This is an exit poll done by ABC. You're seeing that this group that I'm in, has the highest voter turnout. It increases sharply across racial and ethnic groups. You can see white, black, Asian, and Hispanic, but it has gone tremendously up here. But again, you're seeing the low voter turnout, Asian and Hispanic. Now it went from 2014 midterm to 2018 midterm. Oh my God, 13%. That's pretty impressive. All right, 9.6, explaining our decisions that we make. Like, why do we vote the way we do? Well, there's a mandate theory of elections. Many believe that the person who wins the election has a mandate from the people to carry the policies. So in 2016, when Trump won, even though he didn't get the popular vote, the electorals voted him. His side, for the most part, believed that he had a mandate to rule. So did he. So did Bush in 2000, even though he lost the popular vote. So same thing goes with Biden. Biden, and here's the problem. If the Republicans don't honor that he is the president-elect, therefore we erode the idea of legitimacy, and then we're going to have issues over the next 4 years. So this mandate theory is, do we reward them to carry out their policies? And you could see PolitiFact covering Obama meter, seeing if he kept his promises or not in terms of that. Political scientists focus on three major elements for voters' decision: your party identification, your voter evaluations of the candidate themselves, and policy voting. Well, let's go through those three. And you can see here, party identification in America in 2018 was, for the most part, independence, party-wise. But it's the single best predictor of how you'll vote. You use your political party. Well, political parties are only 56, 57% of all Americans. Most of us are independent. So really, it could be changing, and they could redefine this as well. So it's less common, obviously, today, but it's a big predictor. If you're a conservative, you're probably going to vote Republican, and a liberal would probably be Democrat. If you're a moderate, then you choose which side is better for you based on your self-interest. In terms of major elements of the number two is candidate evaluations. Three components for a candidate's image: integrity, reliability, and competence. Integrity is, are they honest? George Bush scored higher than Al Gore in the dimension of honesty back then. I think Al Gore had stated in debates that he created the internet, and I think he had a big part to play in it, but that is a lofty expectation, especially now with how prevalent the internet is in our world. This was right around 2000 when the internet was just being invented and rolled out. Reliability: are you dependable? Are you decisive when it comes to that? George H.W. Bush's image suffered big time when, after the Gulf War in 91, he promised no new taxes. And he had to renege on that and go back and say, yes, I have to tax you because we are in a recession and we need to raise the funds. So again, very tough. That's reliability. That's a tough one. And competence, experience. It's hard to beat an incumbent president, and we know Biden just did that. So it's very rare. George H.W. Bush was the last one to be beaten by Bill Clinton. Okay? Policy voting. We vote. The last one is that we vote based on our preferences. What's going to affect me in my interests? So obviously, voters must, in order for this to take place, you got to have a clear view of your own policy positions. So if you're talking about abortion, are you pro-life? I'm clear on pro-life. I'm not, you can't move me off that idea. I don't think abortion is right. And this is just obviously not real. I'm just giving an example. I'm not for abortion. I'm against it. So therefore, your policy is the candidate has to be against abortion. So therefore, you're going to vote Republican or conservative all the time. That could be a way of doing that. Where the opponent or the candidates stand on it. Biden's pro-choice. Trump was pro-life. I'm voting Trump because I agree with those, and vice versa for Biden. And you see a difference between them. That's how you would vote policy-wise. Eventually, you're gonna vote for somebody. Like if you're an independent, you're gonna vote for somebody that aligns with your policy voting. But you've got to know those. A lot of people, they just don't care about politics. They're just going to vote based on what they grew up with or their friends believe in or what they think overall is right, whether it be Democrats or Republicans for the most part. And they get to choose that side. All right, the last part is the Electoral College. At the end of the game, what happens here? So the electoral vote determines the president, not us. You can see the map on the left. There are 538 electors. Okay, you have to win the majority of those 538, which would be, you can see how they're doing that. It's 270. So divided by 2 would be 269. And then you add the 1 would be 270 to get the majority and not a tie. 269 would be a tie. The founders did not trust us. They were they wanted they wanted the president to be selected by the nation's elite or those that were rich and paid attention to politics. They didn't trust us because they said we were too emotional. It goes back to the mob mentality that we talked about early in the year. So they created the Electoral College. It's a compromise. So it's been in practice since 1828, and the electors vote for the candidate who wins the state popular vote. So you have a set of electors from Texas, and Texas went Republican, so all of the Texas electors are going to vote Republican. Trump gets 38 votes from Texas. On California, it went majority Democrat, so all the electors of the state will vote directly for Joe Biden, and they'll get 55 electors. So it's a winner-take-all in all states except for Nebraska and Maine, and I'll show you that in a second. But let's look at the short list of presidents who lost the popular vote but won the Electoral College. You could see Hayes won even though he had less than 3% less than his opponent. Harrison lost by 16%, but still, I'm sorry, the electoral vote, he won this one, but had lost the popular vote by this. Electoral margin, huge, lost by 0.8% of the populace. 0.9, and then you could see Hillary Clinton and Trump. He won 14% of the college, and she got 1.5, I think it's 3.5 million more, which is 1.3%. Again, you're seeing it from there. The popular vote margin by presidential election, again, just a different way of looking at it. It's now showing you how many votes you win by. Right now, Biden, I think, is up at 6 million. This is not completed yet, but you can see George W. Bush is the only Republican president since 2000 to win the popular vote. Lost, won, lost. So you're seeing how it's done. And he lost by a lot compared to what Gore lost by, or Bush lost by popular vote-wise. So the mechanics of the system, each state has electoral votes. U.S. senators, and they add the U.S. senators and representatives for every state. So we have 36 in Texas and 2 senators. That gives us 38 electors. California, 53 reps, 2 senators, 55 votes. Okay. Today, the state party nominates the slate of electors. They choose, except for those 2, Maine and Nebraska don't have a winner-take-all system. They kind of divide up their votes, which I think is really great. Electors meet in December. I think it's December 8th this year, and mail their votes to the president of the Senate, which is Mike Pence this year. They count the vote in January, and the result is reported to the president of the Senate. If no one receives an electoral majority, the election is thrown to the House of Representatives, which must choose among the top 3 electoral vote winners, obviously Republican, Democrat, and probably the Libertarian at this point. Each state delegation only has 1 vote, so now it becomes the big states like Texas and California only get 1 vote, guys. So in reality, this could come down very, very close because you're not getting electoral votes. You're only getting 1 vote. So the House picks the president if there's a tie, and the Senate picks the vice president. That is the power of Congress in ties. These are the electoral votes allotted to each state. Obviously, the size matters here in terms of your number of votes. Okay? But your number of votes per capita, Wyoming has more power in each of its electoral votes than the 55 in California. Is that fair? Again, you guys got to analyze that on your own in terms of that. The swing states matter so much, so we put more time into all of these swing states. And yes, Texas is down there as a swing state now. Probably not going to go blue until 2028-ish, probably in 2 elections. Could go in the next one, depends, obviously. Losing electoral votes, and then next, after the census, California is predicted to lose 1. All of these states, because they're moving from the Rust Belt to the Sun Belt. So therefore, Texas is probably going to gain 3, and Florida is going to gain 2. So we're going to get to 41, and they're going to get to, I think it's 29, 31. So you're seeing the change over. They're going to Texas and Florida. That's predictions. Doesn't mean it's done yet. In terms of the next big battleground, look at the numbers for Romney. Won by 16 percentage points. Trump 9, and then Ted Cruz in the Senate race 2.5, and then Trump I think is at 1.5 or 2 at this point, but very close. It's becoming a big battleground state to the dismay of Republicans, because this would make the Democrats win all the time if they could take Texas and California. That's a lot of electoral votes. So complaint about the Electoral College. If there was no Electoral College, this is a conservative cartoonist. He's saying, look at the power of your state if there was no electoral college. So the electoral college is supposed to balance it out and stop the big states from bullying the smaller states. However you want to look at it. You can look at it the other way as well. And this is just the polling of battleground states from 2016, the poll averages, and then the final vote. Look, Trump flipped Wisconsin big time, 6.5 to plus 0.7. Trump lost that one to Hillary. So polls are not always right. Michigan and Pennsylvania was predicted to go Clinton, and they voted for Trump. And then you can see the averages here, guys. Again, we know Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona were all close. And Georgia. Look, Georgia was predicted to go to Trump, and now it's flipped the other way. So you can see how this works. Battleground states, percentage for Trump. And this is 2020. Very close here. Lots of electoral votes here in Texas. And then lastly, a lot of people favor a popular vote. I don't think it's going to happen because it's a constitutional. You'd have to repeal or write an amendment directly on the Electoral College, would erase part of the Constitution and recreate it. But most Americans favor it. You could see Democrats overwhelmingly because Republicans only benefit from smaller states as opposed to bigger states or Democrats. And then lastly, there's a new thing called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, where these states have pledged, the purple ones have pledged, their votes go to the national popular vote winner. So states like, let's say Arizona went red in 2016. If they joined this, they would have, because Hillary won it, they would flip all their votes to Hillary. So if you get 270 votes from this compact, 270 electoral votes, the Electoral College will automatically go away until the Supreme Court rules on it. So again, this is the alternate to the Electoral College, and that's kind of what I wanted to show you. The 12th Amendment, so you know about it, 12th Amendment gives electors distinctive votes now for president and VP. So if you're voting for Biden, you're also going to vote for Harris most likely, but you have two votes, solved a major issue in 1800 that happened in the first election. We had an issue with the VP. Lastly, understanding the behavior, guys, you're always looking at the good and the bad from both of these. Are these nominations and campaigns too democratic? Most citizens voice, you have a voice at almost every point in the election process, except for really the president. There's really a permanent campaign, especially for the House of Representatives. With the president, it's just so early now. It gets to the point where it's just so much, so long, and a lot of money involved in it. And again, I'm not going to walk through everything here. Discourage good candidates from entering the fray, because it seems like, especially what Trump did, is now he attacks his opponents. And he doesn't just attack them by saying what you did is wrong. He calls them name. He bullies them. And again, it's not normal necessarily in politics to do that in debate, but Trump has brought that to the fray in a sense. It's a candidate-centered age, meaning it's about Trump, not about the party or the people as much. Trump is, and most of these guys are narcissists, but Trump takes it to another level in the sense that it's about him and he's shaping the party. Now it's becoming known the party of Trump instead of the party of Lincoln. So those things are changing as well. Elections affect policy, obviously, because now the president who gets in, the reps who get in Congress, they can affect policy based on which party they are. So Republicans are going to want to do more to lower the government power to the extent where they don't have a big federal government. States have more rights, whereas the Democrats are going to get in there and want to gain more power, higher taxes. You hear this all the time at the end with this last section, guys. And you can see voters can hopefully influence the policymaking system to steer government and their policies toward their choices. Doesn't always work, but again, the elections will be a check on our government from the people to some degree. Let's see what else. Do big campaigns lead to an increase in scope of government? Well, obviously, we focus on a certain small number of battleground states. That's kind of sad. It discounts. I mean, Texas, for the first time in a while, had a bunch of presidential ads before this election. But California, man, they never get anything because they're always going to vote Democrat for now. So you could see how the candidates can appeal to that state that they're interested in as opposed to all Americans because they're trying to win that state because they're already going to win something else. So again, that's a big issue with this. Modern campaigns are conducted really to give I mean, it's going to show more power to expand the scope of government than it is really to limit it, because Trump wants to gain power for himself. Biden wants the power for his party for the most part. And they want to be able to do what they want to do, what they've promised, without any checks and balances. I mean, that would be a monarchy, a dictatorship, authoritarian. We don't want that. But that seems to be, the president seems to be gaining more and more power over the past year. And that has to do with elections as well. At least they determine who could have that chance to do that. So your level of trust depends on your party, guys. I want to leave us at the trust or the lack of trust. Democratic respondents said the percent of the government to handle domestic issues, 54%. And then Republicans say it's, this is the year. So you can see this is 01, 02. They are backing George W. Bush. And then all of a sudden it flips to Obama. Now they trust him and they don't. And this is the pattern we have. It seems like we're never really in agreement overall. It seems very partisan. I just wanted to show you this was a good way to end it. Guys, that is it for chapter 9. I will see you on the next one. You guys take care.